You know what they say, when you're good at everything, you're not really good at anything. Wait, no, check that. Only one person says that.
Subscribe to Selby is Godcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Oh boy. If you're watching at YouTube, by the way, hi. Go down there, click subscribe. Thank you for being here. Like the video, do all that stuff. Thank you for joining us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you are listening to the audio-only version. And if you are listening to the audio-only version of the Selby is Godcast, I'm TJ, and that's Zach. We'll get to why he's where he's at in a minute. Zach, have you ever...
You could have a spoiler alert in the background if you want as you hear, hello, welcome to Starbucks. What can I get for you today?
We are all about making people go to places that don't pay us for actually... Whatever. I don't want to open up this can of worms this early in the morning. Zach, we've all been in a place where you say something and maybe at the heart of what you're saying, there's a good point there. But instead of maybe clarifying or making sure people understand your point, we treat everything like it's, pardon the interruption, like we're on ESPN. You have to dig into your point. And so you start digging a hole deeper and deeper the more that you talk. And I feel like that was the case on Saturday night with Eric Karros. Of course, you're familiar with Eric Karros' work, are you not?
Yeah, the 1992 National League Rookie of the Year. Who's not?
I feel like we've done... Have we had this conversation before? Like 7 times? Well, then you probably know what I'm going to say next. And yes, that is that same man, but also television analyst on Fox, and the game was on Fox, and they had stumbled into the conversation of Jose Ramirez. By now, if you're online at all, you understand, fans, our Discord, on Twitter, wherever you were reacting to that game, took exception to the fact that Karros talked about, I mean, they were digging into the MVP discussion and what makes Jose a great player. And I think Karros was trying to raise a good point in that it's always going to be an uphill battle for Jose to win an MVP because he's so good at so many different things, but he doesn't excel at any one thing that makes it easy for someone to sort of leaderboard and instantly it jumps out, like an Aaron Judge home run total. And you also look at the fact that Aaron Judge looks like this big, hulking, what you would picture back in the 90s, MVP player. And I think Karros was trying to raise the point that it's always going to be tough when you have an Ohtani having a historic season or a Judge having a historic season, and then you're the guy that's really good at everything across the board, but you can't... It's tougher to sell a voter on the total value as opposed to the one big thing that stands out. And I think under all the BS that they were talking about, there was a good conversation there, but it got buried in trying to defend a point about what is Jose even really good at. And I think Jason Benetti just said, pretty much everything, that's the skill. Boy, have you ever been in that position where you just keep defending a point that you really shouldn't defend? Oh, wait, I'm familiar with our work.
Yeah, no, never stuck my foot in my mouth. I think there are some salient points there. Like, the crux of the argument is accurate, right? Jose Ramirez is really good at everything. But if I asked you to name his best skill, what would it be? Is it his power? Is it his contact ability? Is it his plate discipline? Is it his base running? It's hard to pick, right? So I honestly think it's his base running, and I think that's the one that most people know nothing about, especially outside of Cleveland. So I think there's validity to that. He is so good at everything, and there isn't one thing where you're like, that's the guy that does that, right? Aaron Judge is the guy that hits home runs. Shohei Ohtani is the guy who does something no one has done in baseball for 100-some years. Jose Ramirez is the guy that does a little of this and a little of that and a little of this and a little of that, and he also plays in a smaller market. You know, it's a weird argument to make. Like, if you just stop right there, okay, cool. What a well-rounded player. Let's hype him up. Instead, the best player on your broadcast, you keep talking and talking, and you sort of, ooh, let's see what this person's ordering. Mocha latte? You keep talking and talking, and next thing you know, it sounds like you're slamming the best player on your broadcast, which doesn't make much sense.
And then he homers in that broadcast and looks like a star. He's just like, what are we doing here? And it's all... As this conversation is happening, they're flashing a graphic up on the screen of I think it was since 2017, and here's a list of stats, and Jose was either first or second in all of them. And at the same time, you're trying to make the point that, oh, what is he really good at? What's his one standout thing? And it's like, but the standout thing is that he's amazing at all of these things across the board. It was just kind of silly.
You know what's interesting is this. It's been about the MVP race. That's the lens that everyone has been viewing him in over the last week or so, it seems. And what you really should look at is the well-roundedness makes him such a good Hall of Fame candidate. That's the real one, is when you look up in 10 years, or what would it be? I don't know, 12, 13 years when he's on the ballot, and you look at all the things he does well, like that's when you build your case for him to Cooperstown. It's a little more difficult to do that, I think, in an MVP race because we look for the narrative a lot of times. You know, Judge unseated Ohtani as the MVP that one year, really only because he set the American League home run record. If he hit 58 instead of 62, I don't know if he's winning that. And I think that's silly for 4 home runs to make that difference. So I just think that the narrative around, hey, this guy's like really good at a lot of different things, but no one number is going to just bowl you over. That's not that exciting of a case, I guess, especially since he's in Cleveland and he's just sort of under the radar still.
Going back to 2017, using Fangraphs as our basis for this, you look at wins above replacement, top 5 in baseball. Number 5, Mike Trout. Number 4, Francisco Lindor. Number 3, Jose Ramirez. The only 2 players in Fangraphs WAR going back to 2017, which was that first real big breakout. Jose was great in 16, but he didn't really elevate himself to being the perennial all-star MVP candidate he is until 2017. And since then, the only 2 players that have been better are Aaron Judge and Mookie Betts. I mean, that's incredible. And it's not just that he's so good at so many different things, but Zach, he's always on the field. Aaron Judge has had injuries that have taken him off the field. Jose, when he's been hurt, he has still managed to stay in and be like a league average productive bat. So I think that durability is to his credit too. That guy never wants to take a day off. That's a team leader that wants to set a tone for the younger players as he's aged, and all the things we've talked about over the past several weeks and months about Jose that make him a special player. That's all on the table here.
And keep in mind, if voters for some reason weren't enamored by Jose Abreu's RBI total in 2020, Jose Ramirez might have an MVP. And then the tenor of this conversation is different because you wouldn't be saying, well, he can't win the MVP because of this or that. No, he would have already won one. And I know it was in a 60-game season, but it's not like anything Jose Ramirez did in that 60-game season is stuff he hasn't done over 162 games before. So, it's a weird thing. You know, the NBA has this too where it feels like the MVP award is often the narrative because guys' superstar statistics are all somewhat similar. And it'll be like, well, it's this guy's year now, so he wins it. Or this guy already won 2, so we got to move on to the next one. I don't know that baseball has it to that extent, but I do think it's such a vague thing. The most valuable player. What does that mean? It means different things in different years and in different eras. You know, we used to go back. We've done this, and we've promised to do more of this during the offseason, but go back and look at, like, the year Ivan Rodriguez won MVP in 99, or did Giambi win it in 2000? I know Juan Gonzalez won a couple where, if you look, there was some narrative baked into that. Like, that guy didn't have the best stats, or you didn't use the right stats, or, you know, hindsight allows us to know that, hey, that guy's WAR was half the total of this other guy who probably should have won it. So it's that some of that still exists because we still don't know in certain years what valuable means, or if we should be voting valuable, or we should just be voting best.
It's probably a good thing, though, to be honest. It's probably a good thing, because if it was just cut and dried, then you
Yeah.
We
I
would
don't
just
want to
go
look
to the
at the
fan
war
graphs.
leaderboard.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
don't
just
want to
there's
do
1
that
through
either.
10.
I mean, it'll get you closer to the actual answer, but as we've talked about before, sometimes the fun is in the debate. And sometimes in the debate, you have to throw a little, like, not all logic, but maybe 10%, 15% of logic out the window to have an entertaining discussion.
I think the bottom line here is anytime that guy can play on national TV is a good thing. Because so much, if you just follow from afar, you do lose a lot of what makes him good. You don't notice that he's an elite base runner year after year. You don't get to see him score from second on a wild pitch. You don't get to watch the helmet fly off 100 times a year. I mean, you might see the home runs. You don't see him leg a single into a double or advance to third because, it's just he knew he could beat the third baseman in a foot race there. A lot of the nuance that I think makes him great gets lost when you're looking at a box score or watching a quick highlight. So I think, MVP or not, who knows if that'll ever happen. He's having a phenomenal season, and the more eyeballs he can have that phenomenal season in front of, the better. I mean, think about like what a postseason run could do for him. If he's doing this in October, are we still going to be talking about how is this guy so underrated?
The funny thing is, I think we sell him short, like being a home run hitter. I don't think of Jose as being a home run hitter, though if I go back to 2017, only 4 more players have more home runs than Jose Ramirez. And you think, well, that's going back to 2017. You're erasing some really great players over the past several years. Okay, I'll tighten that up to 2020, going back to 2020, which probably should have been his MVP caliber year. He's 6th in home runs in all of baseball. And at the same time, if I go back to 2017 in stolen bases, which is the easy metric for base running, I think part of it is base running, a large part of that is stolen bases, but that's not the entire picture of Jose. Still, he's 5th going back to 2017 in stolen bases. The skill is he's amazing at all of this stuff. That's what does he stand out in? He stands out in being among the best at every tool there is. That is what makes him a special player.
You know how in spring training you'll ask a guy, what did you want to focus on in the off season? What do you want to get better at? And the most boring cliche answer that you just dread hearing because it gives you nothing is the player who's like, well, I like to work on all aspects of my game. I'm trying to get better at everything. And it's like, ugh, just pick something. I know there was one thing you really focused on. And with Jose, it's like, nah, he does try to master and does master just about everything. What can't he do?
Yeah. And there's one thing that is not related to this conversation that I picked up on in this series that I also want to discuss to give Jose some love. However, I promised you something very special. So much so that when we couldn't sit down and do this last night, I was very disappointed because I had promised something to blow you away. What is the trend now? When someone rips into somebody else, there's always a response, but now it happens in song or in rap or right? And I thought, I'm not an excellent musician. I used to pretend for a few years, but I was certainly not good at it. And I didn't have enough time to call up a great musician to help pen me a song. We live in 2024, where the world has been taken over by artificial intelligence. I'm not even sure I'm talking to the real Zach right now. And so I thought, what if I threw artificial intelligence a prompt featuring Jose Ramirez, the rightful MVP discussion, and one Eric Karros? What would it spit out in response? And Zach, I've got an answer for you.
I don't even know what to say. Just hit the music.
All right. Remember on MTV they used to do the making the video? At the very end it would be like, and now the world premiere of Britney Spears. Right? Well, now the world premiere of Jose is the real MVP.
The sun sets on the diamond. Cameros yells his claims. Jose stands tall in Cleveland. He's igniting flames.
This is AI, by the way, thrown together in about 30 seconds.
Is this rock or country?
TV noise keeps screaming. Stats they twist and bend. But in the heart of Ohio, we know who sets the trend. Jose is the MVP. Can't you see the truth, man? Eric's blinded by the screen. We believe in our own plan. Glow, flashlight, lightning, blood so blazing hot. Cleveland, faithful roaring. Watch him make his mark. Nation blinded by talking heads, but we see clear as day. Jose's the one we're counting on. Not some analyst display. Jose is the MVP. Cleveland's bright joy. Eric Carroll's read the script. Jose's got a picture to annoy.
Eric Karros read the script. Jose has got a pitcher to annoy.
TV noise keeps screaming, stats they twist and bend. But in the heart of Ohio, we know who sets the trend. Jose is the MVP. Can't you see the truth, man?
Can't you see the truth, man?
By the screen, we believe in our own plan. Glow, throttle, blood, flashlight, lightning, woods are blazing hot. Cleveland faithful roaring, watch him make his mark.
Your face.
Talking heads, but we see clear as day. Jose's the one we're counting on, not some analyst display. Jose is the MVP. Cleveland's bright joy.
I don't know, what are first impressions?
Trying to think of a band to compare that to. Getting like Breaking Benjamin vibes. I mean, it's been
Second
at
album,
least
maybe.
20 years since I've listened to them. I had like a rock phase from like 2003 to 2004. 3 Days Grace. I'm kind of speechless. I don't know.
Here's some of my favorites of the. I did not put in these lyrics. It came up with it all itself. The sun sets on the diamond. Karros yells his claims. Jose stands tall in Cleveland. He's igniting flames. TV noise keeps screaming. Stats they twist and bend. But in the heart of Ohio, we know who sets the trend. Jose is the MVP. Can't you see the truth, man? Eric's blinded by the screen. We believe in our own plan.
So how is it that the AI keeps claiming that we talk about Jose Canseco?
Yes. On Spotify, the
They can't
auto chapters.
Yeah, they can't get that right, but they can spit out like a Grammy-winning song in 30 seconds.
You roll your eyes at this, turn your nose up at it. I will promise you, because it happened to me, you will be humming, Jose is the MVP. If people want it, I will leave this up to our, because you and I don't run the show. This is all about the listeners. This is their show.
It's the people.
If the people want that to be downloaded, I will happily provide it for you. Just have to let me know. If you never want to hear it again, that's fine. I will put it back into the archives. We'll never hear it again. But if you would like to listen to it yourself, I will give it to you.
I have a long drive ahead of me at some point in the next day or two I'm on assignment. Been on assignment this weekend, top secret location, top secret Starbucks. And part of me wants you to send me that song and I'll just listen to it for hours until I have it memorized. And then we can perform it.
Sunsets on the diamond. Cameros yells his claims. Jose stands tall in Cleveland. He's igniting flames.
Like a little Papa Roach, maybe?
Oh yeah, I hear that. Yeah, Jacoby Shaddix, a little Jacoby Shaddix in there.
Sure.
Noise keeps screaming. Stats they twist and bend. But in the heart
I mean, if they're able to produce a song like that quick, with that legitimate of lyrics, it's not going to be long before they're able to,
Yeah.
write a 2,000-word feature on Steven Vogt. I'm screwed.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation that I don't think anybody's ready for. I will say, I mean, to our credit, AI is only good because it's listening to years and years and years of the human race doing this, and it's just spitting that back out. However, I think the quote that best sums it up is, I envisioned AI doing my dishes and my laundry so that I can do my art and music. I didn't envision AI doing my art and music so that I could do laundry and the dishes. But that's the way we're going. The best thing is that's not even the last one I have for you today, but I will save that for a moment. What I do want to praise Jose for is Steven Kwan gets he gets on and he gets caught stealing in the first inning before Jose is able to drive him in. And in the they go to the dugout, and you'd think, oh, Kwan got caught stealing. What's Jose? Jose talks to him, but it's not like he's obviously not mad at him. They're talking strategy minutes after it's ended. And he pulls Steven Kwan aside, and I'm sure he can have this conversation because Kwan is such a smart player himself, and Jose probably feels on the same level as far as reading things and base running, and he wants to pass along tips. But
He's also hitting 370, so
There's that. He's been on base a lot in front of Jose. But I love the fact that those two, Kwan gets caught stealing, Jose pulls him aside, and they start talking about just little elements of what maybe Kwan could have done better. I love that. I love seeing your two best players just pull each other aside and be able to have that conversation. No egos on the line here. Nobody's mad at each other. It's, here's what I saw, or here's something that maybe could help you in the future. Cool, I'm gonna incorporate that into my game. That was a fun moment that lasted all of about 10 seconds on the broadcast that still sticks with me this morning.
It's definitely, there's a couple things in play here. Number one, they're not going to shy away from the style of play they feel like they need to employ, right? They have to be aggressive. That's just who they are. It's in their DNA, and they're not going to stop. It's those instances where you learn from it. And if you learn from it and don't make that mistake again, or you understand why you got thrown out or the process that led to it, then you can be better off for it. And, it's a little different. There was the game against the Braves where they had a couple of those. I think Kwan got thrown out twice on the bases in Atlanta. I was actually talking about it the other day about that, just what you learn from it, he journals everything, right? So he goes home after the game. What are you writing in that journal so that you remember next time? Or you take away, what are you thinking about a couple hours later that sticks with you? And it's you can't be sulking about it. So I think it is learning from it, and it does feel like they've had a lot of that this year. And I think it's more a matter of just, if you can understand what type of you want to be aggressive, but you want to be aggressive and controlled. That was always Terry Francona's big thing. You don't want to be out of control running amok. And I think this team is still trying. It's like they're still figuring out exactly where to set that scale. Do you want to turn the dial all the way to ultra aggressive, or should you be very aggressive, slightly more aggressive than average? I feel like they're still fine tuning that. Which is okay because you're 42-22, so it's like you have some wiggle room. Last year, it seemed like they got tight, and they were terrified to make a mistake on the bases because they couldn't hit, and they couldn't blow opportunities, and they were losing games. And if you got thrown out on the bases and you lost that game, it seemed a lot more consequential. And this year, it's almost like they have a little more wiggle room to do some trial and error with this.
I love that Tyler Freeman tries to take a base as he envisions the Marlins napping, and They weren't. They caught him. But I love that he comes back to the dugout, and as they describe on the broadcast, the first question to him isn't, what the hell are you doing? It was, what did you see? Take me through your thought process when you were on the bases. Tell me what you liked about that. Because I think you can shut somebody's aggressiveness down if you come at them just ready to Superman punch them into oblivion. If you slow down and say, okay, take me through what was happening in your head. Because if I know you were in the right place, and maybe it wasn't the right situation, but you saw something, this is what we're preaching. We don't want you to lose that. So take me through what you saw. Now, here from my position on the bench, someone who has watched a lot of baseball, let me tell you why maybe this wasn't the best situation for it. Or maybe it was, and they just, hey, it caught you. And 9 times out of 10, this works. This is the one time it doesn't. But I think you saw this too, where they are getting thrown out at the plate on the sacrifice flies, and it's like, that took incredible talent on their part to get you at the plate. How many throws do we see that go up the line? Maybe they're on track to get there for the first 75%, but just the tails because you're trying to throw as hard as you are from the outfield, and it's in the dirt. It skips away. I don't want anybody to say, well, you got thrown out that one time, you got to pump the brakes. No, this team is where they're at in part because they run the bases so crazily. And sometimes the other team, you got to tip your cap and say, you made the play that we're attempting to do on the other side.
Yeah, I think you want to force the opposition to have to make a great play. And I think the big thing is it's 162 games. Think about how many different situations you come across. And you never know when it's going to pop up a second time. Certain things where you think you notice something with a pickoff move, so you take off early, but then you get caught, or you notice the pitcher's timing to the plate. Like, there are so many things where if you don't get thrown out, you might not learn from that, and you might not be able to apply that in the future. There's a lot. I mean, Steven Kwan is on base so much. There's a lot of different things that can happen that he can learn from and become a better base runner from. We've seen even Jose Ramirez do some uncharacteristic things on the bases from time to time, and do you see him do it twice? No, I don't think so. So it's that. It's just you're growing, you're learning. This is still a young team in most respects. Even with the situation with home plate, I do think Rookie Odor has to learn what players are capable of. How good of a jump do you get off the base when you're tagging up? How fast are you? He's learning a lot too, especially once they get into more division play, just him seeing with his own eyes all the outfielders who you're going to play most often, what their arms are like, and the positions that those outfielders get in when they're making a throw to the plate. There's a lot of experimenting in baseball, period, because it's a game where it's just there are so many little tiny things that happen that pieced together add up to one play in hundreds in one game of 162. So I think this is just part of that, and you learn as you go.
Yeah, Steven Kwan is on base a lot. that could be the lead of a lot of different shows, because it's been the lead of a lot of different games as one of the best leadoff hitters in baseball this year. What I love about Kwan is we know he's wanted to introduce a little bit more thump to the bat. Saw him hit a home run in this series, which you take 2 out of 3 from Miami. The barrel rate, it's 2.8. Nobody is saying, wow, 2.8 barrel rate, whoa. But previously, it was 1.4 and 1.1. To me, getting around a 3% barrel rate is exactly the sort of power introduction that Steven Kwan should be bringing, because it takes him from, what's he going to hit, 5, 6, 7 home runs to maybe getting up to double digits, but also being someone that pitchers have to respect a little bit more. I never wanted him to change completely who he was.
Right. It's the threat. It's that they know, because he's so good at managing the plate and recognizing pitches, they know that if they fall behind, they can't just groove one in there because it's the only risk. It used to be, well, he'll just yank it into right field or he'll slap it to left field for a single. No, there's the threat now. This guy can pull it over the outfield wall. And so that's what, I mean, how dangerous of a hitter do you become when you add that element to it? And you're already a guy who doesn't swing and miss, doesn't strike out, gets ahead in the count, and now you also can turn on one, and the pitcher knows that. It's like he should eventually start drawing even more walks, and like it's really interesting profile. And I think there was a little bit early in the season of, again, more experimentation. Remember, we talked about, he had told me in spring training how he practiced swinging and missing just to know what it would feel like so that he could allow himself to be more aggressive at the plate, to take more chances. And early in the season, his strikeout rate was up a little bit. And you were seeing him swing and miss more. And it was jarring to the eye. And then that went away.
Now? What is it now?
Right. I mean, then he went like 70-some plate appearances without a strikeout. And he came back off the injured list like he didn't miss a beat. And
unbelievable.
You know, the guy's incredible.
His isolated power, which is taking into account just the doubles, triples, and home runs, just the power. Because you can prop up a slugging percentage by hitting a lot of singles, too. So you look at the ISO just to look at that power. In isolation, it was 101 and 102 in his first 2 years in the big leagues. It's 149. Now, again, in a vacuum, when you're just looking at a hitter, that's not special. But when you couple that with the fact that he's hitting 370, so you've got a little bit more threat of power. But the strikeouts in his rookie year was 9.4%. It climbed just a hair to 10.4 last year. It is down with him introducing a little bit more thump at 8.1%, and he hasn't sacrificed in trying to be a little bit more aggressive, hasn't sacrificed the walks. It was 9.7 in each of his first 2 seasons, 9.2 right now. Zach, this dude is hitting 370. I know he's got a 390 batting average on balls in play for whatever's that's worth. That stat is sort of broken with a hitter like Steven Kwan, but I'll still say he's probably been a little bit fortunate. And if you look at expected batting average, 323, which is great, top 1% of the league, but still that suggests probably going to come down off of that 370 a little bit. But realistically, what should we set the over-under here for average for the rest of the season?
At 340?
Oh, wow.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah.
I mean, if he stays healthy, he wins a batting title, doesn't he? Or has a very good shot of it? Because he'll wind up qualifying eventually. Yeah,
that's crazy. 3-4, like, and that's baking in some what you envision regression.
Right.
You still say this dude could hit 340.
I mean, 335. But that's still an incredible season.
We talked about a little bit before that he's always going to be married to the BABIP gods a little bit. There's going to be, like in last year, if you look at it, the points he lost off his batting average from his rookie year to his sophomore season, you find that right in the batting average on balls in play. So did he just get less fortunate? If you look below the surface, it would actually suggest that his contact in some areas was actually better, that his expected batting average was better in his second year compared to his first year. So I think he was somewhat fortunate in his first year, probably a little bit unlucky in his second year, but he's removing some of that luck by being a little bit more of a legitimate threat. And that if you leave one inside, he can turn on it, and he can poke one over the fence to help change a game. That, to me, we talk about what is a guy's ceiling and what is an ideal version of a certain player. This is the ideal version of Steven Kwan to me. I don't think he ever has to truly get better in any way for me to change my mind, like to be happier in any sort of way. If he's this is incredible. And everybody's going to take this and have a huge smile on their face.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Eric Karros pointed out that he's really good at hitting for average. Now he can hit for power. He's a Gold Glover on defense. He can steal bases. And you don't want to be good at everything. You got to just pick one thing.
Just pick one. Oh, boy. I know we don't have any update on Ben Lively. And even if there is any update, he was pulled out of the game, which was turned into a blowout because, as Vogt said, he got stiff sitting on the bench, which I can get that. So he's pulled out early. We don't know if it's a something or nothing. So we won't elaborate on it beyond that. But I was looking more at just what is making his season what it's been. Do you
Can
have
I just
any?
say up front?
Do you have any additional
have-
theories?
No. So you can lead this because I've studied the guy's metrics, his stats, his history, everything so many times, and I got nothing. So why don't you enlighten me?
I mean, he's on his way to an All-Star appearance. Can you make the case that Ben Lively's an All-Star this year?
Yeah, I mean the stats would bear it out.
If you look at ERA, certainly. If you're so focused on wins that it means something, he's got those. At least on track to where you'd want to be to get All-Star attention. I know he's got a late start to his year, so that factors in. And he doesn't pitch deep always into games, but I think that's strategic on Vogt's part. So I'm like you. I'm looking at his Baseball Savant page every single day. Find me something. Because we're all wondering if he's going to turn into a pumpkin at some point, right? Like, you have to. We talked about this before. It has to happen, right?
I mean, it's like he's got good extension. Is that it?
I mean, you've talked about his command, that the command has been better this year, and that is something for a pitcher that can stick with you for an entire season, maybe doesn't carry over, or maybe he's just been able to put it where he wants to better than ever before. So I looked at a little bit the heat maps, and I will say, compared to like even last year with the Reds, he's more polished with where he's putting the pitches. So if you look at him, like the four-seam fastball, it's in the middle, and there's this giant red spot in 2023, which means it's just kind of all over the plate, and a lot of them have been middle. You look at him this year, everything looks a little bit more strategic in location. And the two-seamer, as we've talked about before, everything is elevated up to the upper third quadrant of the strike zone. And I think he's doing a better job of not leaving pitches in the middle of the plate. We've seen the four-seamer has now been overtaken by the sinker or the two-seamer. I don't know which he terms it. But that's now his primary pitch, so he's using more of the sinker as the primary instead of the four-seamer, which have been pretty much neck and neck for the entire season. So the pitch usage is different than he's been in the past. That's a potential. Also, I was looking at it, because he gives up hard contact, but it hasn't really led to much of anything. So I pulled up his hard hit fly ball distance. I was just wanted to compare that to last year. Is it just less damage on those? So if we go back to last year, those hard hit balls are 95 miles per hour or harder. The average distance on those last year on fly balls, 382 feet. This year, 334. And so, okay, that's interesting. The launch angle on those balls was 32 degrees last year, 39 degrees this year, which tells you they're hitting it hard, but it's going way up in the air a little bit more, which if you hit it at 32, there's a better chance it's going to cut through at that hard hit velocity and find the seats or find an alley. But this year, because everything's just elevated up, it's not going as far. It's not going anywhere. And the outfielders are able to catch the fly ball.
The wheels are spinning. I've got it.
Okay.
So, just from what you've said so far. So we have a massive project coming on The Athletic next week. And it's all about pitching. I hope I'm allowed to say this. And I've got a pretty significant
Don't worry.
piece.
Everyone turned it off when the AI music started, so you can just talk however you want.
Had a pretty significant piece in it, and it's had me talking to pitching people across the league for the last 8 months. And a couple things that you think you know or you read about, and then you see the evidence and it's confirmed. That's been the crux of the evolution of pitching over the last 15 years. Is everybody knew, hey, you should throw hard because then you can get more swing and miss, and then you don't have to worry about Joe Blow behind you booting it, or it finding a gap in the outfield, or it getting poked over the short porch in right field. So everyone wants swing and miss, right? So the way to do that is velocity, of course, but also just technology has made everything easier, where now if you're a pitching coach, you can say to Ben Lively, hey, this zone right here, this little area of the quadrant or of the strike zone is where you get the most swing and miss. And right here is where you get the most swing and miss with your two-seamer. And right here is, and you can, that's been around for a decade now, but pitchers haven't always bought in. That's the big key. Like Shane Bieber credited Matt Blake with opening his eyes to analytics, and that was in like 2017. So, every pitcher is different. I haven't talked to Ben Lively about this. I don't know if he was resistant to it for a while. I don't know if he just didn't have the right instruction for a while, and maybe it's all clicked this year. I don't know. I also know that what you're describing is the basis of the whole launch angle versus, missing bats concept, where pitchers' stuff became so good that hitters were like, well, shit, it's really hard to string together 4 singles against this dude throwing 101 with a 93-mile-an-hour slider. So I'm going to change my launch angle. I'm going to swing for the fences more so that if I do make good contact, I'm going to get something out of it. So then what that does is it leaves you susceptible to those high fastballs, which it's really hard to swing up on a high fastball when it's already up here, and you get even more swing and miss. And what you're telling me is that that's what's happening, is he's targeting the top of the zone, and he's getting guys to pop up because the launch angle is higher. He's got good command with it, and he's just not placing the ball in a spot where they can make the proper contact with the right swing angle, the right exit velocity to do damage. I think did I solve it? Should I be a pitching coach?
Solve it? I don't know, but I think we're on the right path here. I think it's a fascinating discussion about how in baseball no one ever really figures it out. It's just you figured it out enough that they're going to eventually make an adjustment, and then you got to adjust off of that. For hitters like David Fry will be great as long as his process continues to be what it has been. If ever drifts off of that, then maybe he's not going to. That's why I look at a guy like Josh Naylor, and I still see that he's hitting the ball hard and below the surface, while swing decisions and maybe he's chasing a little bit more that have led to not as idealized contact for him. I still believe he's going to get there eventually. For Lively, I'm wondering, because baseball has been this way, as you're describing, with high stuff in the zone, and we're going to be chasing the strikeouts that way. Well, after about 5 years of a hitter of seeing that, what eventually happens? Do you get used to that? Do you start to anticipate that?
Everything comes back around. So that's why you're all of a sudden the sinker is back because
right,
hitters made adjustments. So now
it
you're
was out
trying
of the game
to,
7 years ago.
Yeah, you're trying to, and everything's tunneling too. So if you can throw a sinker this way and a slider this way, or you can throw a fastball at the knees and then a sinker below that, and then the curveball. I mean, that's what makes Tristan McKenzie good when he's going well, right? He's got that extension, that fastball's getting on you quick, or you can drop that curveball on you. You think it's a fastball, and you swing through it. I mean, what we're talking about with Lively is what they were trying to do with Adam Plucko a few years ago. I remember talking to Plucko one spring, and he had fully bought in, and he was studying heat maps and breaking down the strike zone into different quadrants and saying, if I throw my fastball up here, and then throw the curveball below that, dropping out of the strike zone, like that was his perfect setup. And it made him successful for a little bit. In 2019, he was key when they had all those injuries. So you can take a really good starting pitcher. I mean, you can take Garrett Cole out of Pittsburgh, put him in Houston, tell him stop throwing sinkers and sliders and pitching east and west to contact and throw fastballs up, and turn him into the game's best ace, right? But you can also take a guy a journeyman or an average person or a spot starter, and turn them into, not an average person, but an average major league starting pitcher.
Wow.
I don't think you and I can get 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. But you can take an average pitcher and turn them into something more effective because you have all this data. You just have to have the coaches who can translate it properly and deliver the information properly, and you have to have the pitcher who is embracing of it and willing to learn and understand why it makes sense to throw that pitch in that spot, in that part of the count. And I think for a long time, it took a long time to get here. And maybe Lively is just a beneficiary of that right now.
even looking at the way that his pitches move, I don't see huge drastic differences. The slider has a little bit more horizontal bite compared to last year. The four-seamer has a teeny bit more ride, so it's actually a little bit above average compared to certainly last year when it was more of an average ride on the fastball. And we're talking about just vertical movement, how much it falls. It appears to stay higher to a hitter as it comes in, and it appears to defy the laws of gravity. But I'm wondering, because hitters have gotten so accustomed to seeing this 95, 96, 97 mile per hour fastball in the upper quadrant of the zone with this elite ride on it. If you see Lively's come in at 90 and it doesn't have elite ride, but your brain has just been seeing everybody else with this elite stuff. At what point, because we've always talked about, or we've been told by people smarter than us, that you want to be different than the norm. The key is to get out of the middle. You either want to be one end of the spectrum or the other, just so it's so different than what hitters see on a daily basis. Maybe Lively is just so different in that this used to be average, but now everyone else has gotten to a point where everyone's trying to be this cookie-cutter 97 elite ride fastball guy, and then here's Lively going, I'm just going to throw my sinker up here, and it's going to perform differently than you think it is going to compared to what you usually see.
And imagine facing Lively twice, having two frustrating at-bats against him, and then knowing the next time you go up there, it's going to be Smith or Gaddis or Clase, and that 98 is going to look like 112.
Okay, let's wrap things up. I promised you one more. I did ask AI to give me one more song, but we didn't want so aggressive. I thought, we give Jose so much love on this show, and let's take it down.
B-side?
Let's take it down a notch. This one, maybe out of
the... You do a ballad?
This is not rock. This is more Taylor Swift, while back. This is T Swift, 10 years ago, maybe?
You're just trying to get Taylor Swift in the headline here?
Just trying to... Yeah. So, let's all take a moment and give praise to the superstar third baseman of the Cleveland Guardians. Take us home.
Tune in every night for all the hot takes. Hosts are buzzing with excitement, ain't no breaks. Cleveland's got a hero leading the charge. Jose on the field, yeah, he's living large. Home run, king slider with a punch. Guardians rejoicing like a winning bunch. Plays with heart, lights up the field. Jose's magic cannot be concealed. Jose, Guardian star, shining bright from near and far. Bats and gloves, he sets the bar. All hail Jose wherever you are.
Oh, you're going to be singing this later.
Weekly shout-outs can't get enough.
It's terrible, but it's really catchy.
Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We'll see you later this week at Patreon. Take us home.
From dugout whispers to roaring crowds, all agree his plays make us proud.
Are you sure this isn't one of Taylor's secret songs at her concerts?
With Jose's flair, nothing can compare. Jose, Guardian star.
Everybody sing along.